Stereotype of the angry black girl, of how the black girl would never get believed if it's her versus a white sister or white girl or white anybody. And that's what happened to me a lot in my household.
Hey beautiful people, how you are doing today? It's your girl Destiny here, and welcome to my channel. How you are doing? Hope you guys are doing fantastic. So this video is a video of a sister who came to share our interracial adoption. So this black sister is originally from Sierra Leone, West Africa, and she said she was adopted into a white family at the age of 10, and she was sharing some of the experience of how she was treated. She said what triggered this conversation or her sharing this story time was how was that video. I did this video of how a girl was saying that some black girls cannot fathom how beautiful, like can fathom that a black girl can be beautiful. I did a video on that and we heard people share their story. She said when she saw that video, it just really brought a lot of memories back of how she was treated in the white family she was raised, and how her sister didn't like her and everything. The sister was almost nitpicking on her, and the family never believes her. When it gets to she and her sister out, there's an issue, the family always believe the sister. She was almost labeled with the stereotype with the angry black girl, that she's angry and all that. And for me, I find this really interesting because I don't think I've ever heard a story of interracial adoption. So getting to see how white family adopted a black child and the black child experience in that household, I find it really like interesting. So we're going to hear the story, but before we get into the story, and you already sister shared the story, and if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button down there below. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you get notified once I upload video, because I post video every single day and you don't want to miss out on the amazing conversation and story time we share and react to here. So please go ahead and hit the subscribe button. With that all said, guys, let's go hear the sister share a story and then we'll come back and talk.
I made a video about how my sister was my biggest hater. And for context, I was stitching this black girl's video. I'm sure a lot of you have seen it, where it's like white girls can't stand when a black girl is prettier than them. So I had made a story about my sister. And for context, I was adopted by a white family at the age of 9, and I moved to the States during that time. And I was living with them. And my new white sister, she is, I don't want to talk about race in this. I'm just talking about the struggle that I faced and the stereotypes that existed in that house that harmed me in the worst way. The stereotype of the angry black girl, of how the black girl would never get believed if it's her versus a white sister or white girl or white anybody. And that's what happened to me a lot in my household. And I didn't realize when I told that story how deep things really were and how bad things really were with my sister, and how I was never believed. It was always her that was believed. I was made out to be turned into the villain. And things were truly so bad, to the point where my sister, after me growing up, leaving the house, like if she would hear good things about me, she would get upset. Like she hated I really think that girl hated me from the moment I walked into our house. And I understand where it stems from. And sometimes when people adopt whatever race it is, they have this concept and idea of what they want the child to be. They talk about, all the things they're going to expect from the child, but they never actually take into consideration what the child is actually going to be. So when they get the child and she's not acting how they expected her, it becomes a problem. And that's what happened to me. My family expected me to just be lovey-dovey's and be friends with my sisters, period. And they forgot the fact that, well, this girl just lost her country. She lost her family. She's not lost them like they passed away, no. But I'm uprooted into this new culture. And I now have to deal with, living in a white world where no one looked like me. So I'm grieving all of that stuff. So I wasn't in the right place to just be jumping in and having a relationship with everybody. They missed that. And I wasn't really being sisterly to my sister. I wasn't mean. I just did not give her the time of day. Like, I would ignore her. I wouldn't interact with her. So that became a problem. That became, oh, Emily the angry girl, Emily the unloving girl. And part of the reason why I didn't want to be friends, I will get more into details later, be sisters with my sister, is because everything that happened between us, she would go and tattle on me. So it's like, why would I want to, be friends with sister with someone like that? And I think the first major fact that really solidified my reasoning behind not wanting to be sisters with her was when I was in the States for less than a year, and we went to pick up my brother from daycare, and it was her and I in the car, and we kind of got in an argument, and she hit me first, so I hit her back. So my parents come in the car, or she told my parents, and she said, so she told that I held her down and I just beat her up. And at this time, y'all, we were like both like 8 or 9 or 9 and 9. We were about the same height, the same build. They're like, oh yeah, she held me down until this day when they tell the story. Oh yeah, when Emily came, she was, trying to adjust. She was so aggressive. Like, she just held down Natalie and just beat her up. And I'm like, that's not what happened. So that was the beginning of, okay, this girl is going to make it known that she's the top food chain in this family. And she is going to make sure that you're the bad guy and you're the villain, and your mother is never going to believe you. Your family's not going to believe you. And there were moments where my sister would always tattle on me. I'm the bad guy. I'm the bad guy. And my father caught on, and he said, no, it's not Emily. It's Natalie. And I remember my mom vigorously defending Natalie and saying, no, it's her. It's Emily. And my dad believed her. And I think my mom kind of hopped on this bandwagon of not believing me because she was the one who did a lot of the work when it came to adopting. So when she finally got this child who she expected to be grateful in every way possible, and she wasn't getting that, she was mad. And another instance I can remember, these are just a couple of instances, was, so at like 18, I left the home, and was living in San Diego, California. And I was trying to kind of be a better sister. So I paid for my sister's plane ticket to come see me so I can show her around California and all that stuff. And she comes, and I remember I took her to go to LA, just show her around, and it was a really fun day. I had a really good time. At least I thought I had a good time. And during that day, I was taking pictures of her all the time. And then I asked her towards the end to take pictures of me. And she was rolling her eyes, having a nasty attitude, like, oh my God. So I got upset. And I said, forget it. So I started walking away fast. And she was like, at this time we were like 20, like early 20s. And it's crowded, and it's broad daylight. And she's like, well, you're just going to leave me behind here by myself? And I'm like, no, we'll go into the car, walk faster, keep up. Come on. So that incident happened, but the rest of the trip, I thought we were good. And she went home, and she spun the story. And she was like, Emily was such a terrible person to me this whole trip. She didn't, and I said, what? And I remember my brother telling me this. She's like, oh, well, what she said was this. And I told my brother, I'm like, that's not what happened. That's not the full story. And she was just nasty to me the whole trip. She didn't want to do anything. And I said, I was like so kind and catering to her. I'm like, did you tell them what I actually, I paid for your ticket. I was excited for you to come, and I did all that stuff for you. And I came home and I heard about the story, and I was telling my mom about my side, and she didn't give a to listen to my side. She's like, oh, that's all you did? I don't believe you. I don't believe you. And it's like I was never believed in that family. And another instance that happened, that all of this stuff is coming up to me, and just I'm just realizing how bad things really were, how terrible it really was. And I came home with my fiance, and I was excited, and my sister, of course, she was upset, just like see me doing good. And she said something, I don't remember what she said. She said something nasty to me. And everybody heard it. Nobody reacted. People don't react when she says nasty things to me ever. No. And a lot of the times, the nasty things that she would say to me, I don't tell because I know I would not be believed. And I went downstairs because she went downstairs, and I was sitting next to her, and I was just like, trying to have a conversation. I'm like, hey, what you said to me was really it wasn't nice. And I thought it was just a good conversation. She said, oh, okay, fine, I won't do it. I won't say it again. I'm sorry. I said, okay, cool. It was good. I'm thinking it's a good conversation. She went upstairs and she told my parents that I cornered her. And was just nasty to her. I said, what? And of course, I'm not going to get believed. I'm not going to get believed. And to be fair, I understand she was trying to compete for a space that was all for her at one point, which I can understand why a child would do that. But after becoming an adult, it's like, hey, let's do a little better. And of course, I wasn't 110% innocent either. And there's probably things that I had said that I may have forgotten. And if she sees this, I hope she can tell her side as well. Another incident that happened that was just like very well known, it was my mother, my sister versus me. And what had happened was, my brothers would tease my sister. Like, they used to say things like, oh, dance is not a real sport, which was a nice thing to say. And I had also kind of like, I was giggling and laughing with my brothers, and I had said, oh yeah, dance is not a real sport. And the vitriol, my mom did not have this vitriol for my brothers. She turned and she got into my face and she said, she can dance circles around you. Don't you ever say that to her. I said, oh, I'm sorry. Like, I thought we were just joking around. Like, it was a joke. Like, my brothers were saying it too. How come you didn't get into my brothers? I'll make a part 2 because I'm about to run out.
Wow.
Part 2 on how my sister was my biggest hater, and she like plotted, she wished on my downfall. I'm not gonna lie. Another instance that I remember where it felt like my mom, my sister versus me, was something had happened and I was mad about something. With me, when I was a child, I would get just, when I get mad, I just shut down. I don't give people, I'm cold towards people. And it's not necessarily always, words that come out. And I remember my sister and my mom, we were sitting in the living room and I was trying to talk about my side and they were talking about their side, and they ganged up on me and they were yelling and screaming at me. They're like, you're being such a bitch, like stop being a bitch. And I'm like trying to defend my side, but they only believed on whatever, I don't remember what the situation was, but they were only believing, my mom was only believing Natalie's side and not my side. And I remember sitting there just feeling like, I felt so alone in that house. And I really felt like it was everyone versus me. And I really think my mom, like I talk about my mom a lot and I throw her on, I say a lot of things about my mom, but I also need to hold my father accountable because he watched a lot of this happen. And a lot of times, instead of defending me, he would try to come to me in a way of trying to be kind and talking to me, but then it would always be, you need to apologize, Emily. You have to apologize. And I'm like, what about them apologizing to me? And everybody in the house, it became clear, like the number, the way my mom had demonized the shit out of me in that household. And I was the issue. I was always the problem in that house. And it was hard. It was so hard. And now, like, as an adult, I'm trying to deal with all of this stuff and like going to therapy and all of these things that are coming up. And one of the biggest fallouts that we had that has to do with my sister was when I got a Twitter. This was in high school. I got a Twitter, and my sister had followed me, and I think I had tweeted or retweeted something. Y'all, it wasn't bad at all. But because my parents were so strict and making sure they had my access to everything on my social media, like I had to be careful every little thing that I said. What I said was, it was completely innocent to me anyway. So most people, yes. And my sister had seen it. So she went and tattled. And I'm like, okay. So I blocked my sister. She goes and tells my parents, and my parents got angry. How dare you treat your sister like that? How dare you act like that? How dare you, you're not supposed to, treat your sisters like that. And I lost it. And I think when I was younger, I used to bottle things because I felt like I couldn't express how I felt and be heard. I bottled everything and I internalized, and then I would just blow up. And I blew up. And this was all because I blocked my sister. And I remember trying to walk down the stairs, because when I get angry, I retreat. I need to go to my room. That's my safest place in the house. I gotta go to the room. And my dad was standing in front of the stairs, and he's just like, no, we're gonna talk about this. I'm like, I don't want to talk about this right now. I don't want to talk about this right now. So I was trying to move my dad out the way. And to this day, my mom tells people that I tried to push my dad down the stairs. I said, no, that did not happen. I did not try to push him down the stairs. I was trying to get him out the way, away from the stairs, so I can get around him. And that whole thing blew up. And I had actually tried to leave the house. I had ran away, and I had went to my friend's house. And I was 18 at this time. So they're like, fine, go on, leave. And my friend was like, oh, you can't stay with me. I was like, that's fine. So now I went to my grandmother, and I ended up staying with my grandmother, and they had changed the garage code. They had locked me out the house. They're like, you can't come back in this house. So I was staying with my grandma for a couple of, I think it was like 2-3 months. And they're like, you have to learn how to, like, they were like, you have to, be nicer before you come to this house. Like, you can't come into this house anymore. And you're a danger to your dad, you're a danger to us, all of that stuff. And I'm like, and I remember being so scared. I remember like feeling abandoned in that time, all because I blocked my sister. I can make more story times. There's so many story times, but I feel like me telling this, I'm not looking for empathy. And I think me telling these stories is a way for me to get this stuff out and heal. I have to heal, because it's so hard having a whole group of people that are smearing your name everywhere to anyone that can hear, and you have no way of telling your side, because my mother and my family have done such a good job in making me the villain in everything, and that people just believe any and everything that they say. Like, she truly was terrible to me, and my parents did not do a lot about it. And another instance that I remember was, she had said something to me, and I went up to my mom. And I told her what she did. And this is what my mom said to me. She's like, well, that's just how Natalie is. That's just how she is. Get over it. I'm like, did you ever, maybe think about me and say, well, maybe that's just how Emily is? No, of course not. Oh, she's going through a lot right now. That's just how she is. I was supposed to understand her. I was expected to understand how she feels and what she's going through. But me, on the other hand, the sympathy was not extended. And I hate to bring race into it, but what it was coming off was that, like, sometimes white people or other people of other races, I'm not saying all white people, they have a hard time seeing black people as human beings and the emotions and feelings that we go through. And there's been times where I have told my mom things about me and things that I'm going through that she just did not seem to really care about. And of course, in this process of telling my story, I have to be fair. It wasn't like my family was horrible to me the entire time, no. And for the longest time, I debated in telling my story. And because I just felt like, well, my family was good people. They're good people. But the older I get and the more therapy I do, and I'm like, were they really good people? Were they really? Because at the end of it all, when I was fighting to be heard, when I was fighting for them to understand me, they all abandoned me. They all literally shut me down at the moment that I needed family more than anything. And that was when I was getting married. They all completely abandoned me. Nobody showed up at my wedding. not a single family. And you guys would think, wow, you must have done some terrible things. You must have been a terrible child and a person for your whole family to do that to you. But I wasn't. I was an AB student in high school. I got along with people in high school. The teachers liked me. Matter of fact, my parents stopped going to my parent-teacher conferences because they're like, well, you're good. Like, the teachers, they have nothing good but to say, they have good things to say about you. So I feel like we don't need to go. And I never snuck out, never partied, never drank in high school, never did drugs, never did any of that. I was goody two-shoe. The worst that I ever did that I can think of is when I was like 13 or 14. I ran away. And of course, a child running away, that can have a lot on a parent. I understand that. But to be treated the way I have been treated, you would think I was this kid, and there's things that, worse things my other siblings have done. Like, worse things. But I got the brunt of everything. And my family did such a good job in fixing the narrative. And my mom was at the center of all of it. At the center of all of it. And when I was going through all of this stuff, when I was trying to talk to my mom, I was. And I contemplated unaliving myself. And it was bad. It was so bad. And I remember telling my mom about it, like screaming, begging for her to hear me and understand my pain. And I told her what I was feeling. And she looked at me like I didn't say anything. Like she could give less of a. Like she could give less of a. And I'm telling the story to the internet. One, I think it helps with healing when you tell your story. And two, y'all blocked me. Well, you never gave me a chance to tell my side of the story or anything. You didn't care enough to hear about my side of the story. Not my siblings, not my dad, not my mom, not my grandma, not my other grandparents. Part 3 of my adoption, my transracial adoption story. Through this process again of me telling the story, I have to be fair. My parents have given me a life that's amazing. I'm not gonna lie. Taking a young child who was struggling back in Sierra Leone, West Africa, and is brought to here to the States and have better education, better healthcare, better everything, that would never be looked down upon. Like, I will always be grateful for them to the T with that. And that is something that will hold true and near and dear to my heart always. And it's been an amazing, life for me in that aspect. And when I came to the States, my parents did put in a lot of effort in putting me in therapy and taking me to the doctor, doing all of that stuff, and in helping me, which, that's what a parent is supposed to do. But I'm also very grateful for that. They tried their best in helping me. And one thing I can admit is that my mom and my parents, they did do things to try and help me in dealing with my trauma and my pain and stuff like that. But where they fall short was taking accountability that the pain that they also inflicted. And that therapy, me being put through therapy and me being grateful, was later thrown into my face. And what had happened was my parents had racked up a lot of debt because they were putting me through therapy and helping me out. And my parents used to throw out in my face, oh, we're in a lot of debt because of that, what we're putting you through therapy, putting all through that, we're in a lot of debt. And at one point we had gotten into a fight, and this was when I was like early 20s. I was already out the house, and I had came home, and my mom was at the kitchen counter, and she was talking about another family that had adopted black kids. And the mom was on Facebook just, airing out this kid's, life. And my mom was, judging her, talking to, I can't believe she would do that. And I looked at her and I'm like, look at you on your high horse. I said, you've done something like that to me. I don't remember what the mother was doing. You've done something like that to me. And I said what it was, but before I say what it was, she completely played the victim and completely lost it. You were just trying to hurt me. You're just trying to be mean to me. And what I was referring to was when I went into the Navy when I was 18 years old, and came out, and I came home, and I was 19 by the time I came home. And I had, lost my virginity to a boy that I used to like, the boy that I used to date. And this boy had the same name as a boy that, this boy had the same name as another boy that was currently in high school who was dating somebody. And after that had happened, I didn't tell my mom about it. I'm not going to tell her about it. Why would I tell her about it? And so I left and I was on my way to my next station. And word got around. People thought I had slept with the guy that was in high school that had a girlfriend. And people were saying that I helped the guy cheat. And I was like, what? So instead of my mom waiting, because she couldn't really contact me because I was, going to my first command, like my phone, everything was shut off and stuff like that. Instead of waiting to talk to me and say what happened, she sent me this long, disgusting email berating me, like just nasty things. I wish I had that email. I could show you. And it was so heartbreaking. And I said, that was not the boy that I slept with. That was not him. And she was just like, you embarrass your brother, because my brother was in high school during that time. You embarrass your brother. You're embarrassing the family. You come into town, you just wreak havoc. I'm like, and I remember, instead of like being mad at my mom and saying, okay, you said, I called her crying, like to plead my case. Like, I'm sorry that I did that. I'm sorry that I lost my virginity. I'm sorry at 19 years old, as a 19-year-old girl, making her own decisions. I cannot believe I did that. And I did not tell you about it. So, and she never apologized for it. My mom never apologized for it. Matter of fact, when I would come home and I would tell her a little bit about my life, my mom really had the idea that I was just sleeping around with a bunch of men in California. And I was telling her, I'm not. And she's like, I don't care, whatever you're doing out there. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm not sleeping around. I don't know what you're talking about. And I told her that, at the sink, and she got so upset. Like, I cannot believe you are holding that against me. And I'm like, I should have, approached the whole situation in a way where I was like, okay, maybe talk to her about it, in private. But with my mom, talking to her anything in private it never goes right. She's always the victim and everything. So everybody's mad at me because I disturbed her peace. My mom is mad at me. My siblings are mad at me. My dad is mad at me. And later on, like for a couple of days, we didn't talk. Nobody was talking to each other. And she came up to me and she was just like, I did things to your siblings too. Like, you should just get over it. I said, no, the vitriol that you had for me was not the same the way you treated my siblings. So I can't just get over it. So then we start screaming at each other. We start going off at each other. And at this point, I was like, I'm so sick and tired of this family. And at this time, I had came back from deployment and my car was, still at my house. My dad had taken it so they can borrow it. And I said, fine. So I was like, you know what? In my head, I'm like, I'm going to drive and go home all the way to California. And I lived in Minnesota. So I was walking downstairs. We were all screaming at each other. My dad was in it and my mom was in it. And when it comes to my dad or my family, the vitriol that they had for me and how they yelled and screamed at me was unmatched from my other siblings. And keep in mind, my dad is like 6 foot something and I'm like a 5'2", petite girl. And I'm like, you should not be coming at a young girl like this. Like, that's fucking weird. That's weird. So they're both screaming at me and the way he was going off at me. So I was like, you are not my father. A father does not do that to their kid. You do not scream at me like that. And he's like, you know what? You're the reason why we're $60,000 in debt. And that's going back to the therapy. And I'm like, how did it climb from $35,000 to $60,000? You're releasing something on me that had nothing to do with me. And once again, you're holding over the help that you've given me as an adopted child. And because I wasn't what you guys thought I was supposed to be, you don't know how to swallow that. You don't know how to swallow that. And you guys never really took the chance to step back and see something else is going on. Like, she's not like her behavior in me just being shut down and not really wanting to have a relationship with anybody because I felt so ostracized in that house and felt like I was the black sheep, the odd one out. And that, oh, hold on. Maybe let me just, see what's going on. What is going on with her. So I had packed my stuff that night, y'all. It was morning. It was at nighttime, and I drove my all the way to California within 2 days, like a day and a half. I was so pissed off. It was that bad. And this was winter time. It was that bad where I just could not stand no longer to be in that house. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. For so long, I let you guys just make me feel like I'm the bad guy at all times. And again, I'm not 100% innocent. I'm not innocent in all of this, because there's always two people involved in a relationship that, one person could be doing something better, always, no matter what. And I'm just like, I'm no longer doing that. And we did end up kind of making up. And my dad apologized. I apologized. And my mom, my parents, decided to come, because I live in Florida now. So like that whole situation happened, and within a year I had moved to Florida, and they had made the decision to come see me. They brought my younger sister with me, and my mom, thought, I was going to pull my dad aside and talk to him about the situation and apologize. Again, me expected to fix everything. Me, the child, me, the kid, fix everything. You're the one who's always... The thing in my family is I'm the issue. I disturb everybody in the issue. All the issues that happen in my family is because of me. So the blame was always put on me. And she didn't tell me that. She didn't tell me that she expected me to pull my dad aside. So then after she left, after everybody left, and I was still angry about it, because I'm like, he said nasty things about me. Why isn't he pulling me aside? Why isn't he pulling me aside? I'm the child. And my mom was like, you should have done better, after she left. It's always something that I don't know about, and I find out later, on how horrible I was as a person, and how I should have done something differently.
Wow. Right now, I can't wait to watch the... Wow, this is really interesting. For this video not to be... So please, for this video not to be much longer than this video is going to be in part 2. So the next part of the video, we're going to see it in part 2. But I find this story very, very interesting. I want to know your own take so far down in the comment section. What are your thoughts about this story time? What are your thoughts about interracial adoption and all that? What are your thoughts? And everything she was listing, that there were some of the ways she was treated. I'd love to know your own take down in the comment section, but please keep it respectful as always. Here on this channel, we're allowed to disagree, but we do it in a respectful way. So go ahead, feel free and share your thoughts. So for me personally, I feel like I can't even comprehend what she's saying, because I have never been in that situation. I don't know anybody in that situation, being in a family where you are the only black person and all that. But one thing I want to say is that when you adopt a child, that child is literally your child. And I know sometimes it might be very hard to navigate it. And the way naturally black people, especially black women, are being perceived, it's really like, it's almost like an imprint generally, that they usually feel like, oh, we should act a certain way, we should do a certain things. And as parents, this lady looks like in late 20s, 30s, if I'm not, I don't know though. But as a parent, you have to, your children are different. And then as a parent, you need to be very observant and don't really take sides, so that it's very obvious for the other child to know that you treat them differently. And for a black child in a white home, I can just imagine how that can feel. Only thing I can relate with this is that as a child growing up, I've said it, that myself and my mom, we've had our issues growing up, and all that, especially being the first daughter, is the fact that everything was our fault, everything, it was in our place. I was that child, because as the first daughter, anything that goes wrong is my fault. Things must not go wrong. And that made me feel isolated. I remember every little thing, my mom is being physically abusive to me, like beating me, an African Nigerian parent. And I remember there was a day I looked at her, I said, take me back to my parents. If you borrowed me, if you adopt me, please, as a young child. Yes, I said that to my mom. And my mom was like, you see those people you thought are your parents, you go and meet them. And a lot of parents don't, some parents, not a lot, not, I won't say a lot, but some parents don't understand the point where they have to stop evaluate their own action, how they respond, how they address issues, and then apologize. I feel like if a lot of parents can come off their high horse of being a parent and see what they've done and how they've affected their children's life and just apologize, and to just make the healing process a lot easy. And myself and my mom were able to do that work where she apologized to the things she did to me and I apologized to the things I did. Yes, I was a very stubborn child, but that I was a child. You were the parent. You were the, so for this sister, like I can just imagine how that is. And yes, I am that person that when I'm over it, when I'm angry, especially growing up, I will shut down. I will shut down and start internalize everything and just keep processing everything. And then when I react, people say, "Oh, you overreact." I know that it's just things that don't matter. That's what you react to. You're not knowing that it's a pile up of a lot of things that makes me react. And I feel like that has make me come to that place where I'm very vocal about, like, if you do things that makes me feel some type of way, I'm going to address it there and there. And that's because for the longest time I've bottled things up and then react over the most silly things, and people think that I overreact, and now it's not. But anyway, I'm really interested to hear the remaining part of the story. If please check out the other part of the story so you get full context. Okay, so please check out the part 2 so you get the full story. But I'm really curious to hear the other side of the story, what she has to say. But yeah, please go on and share this video with somebody that you want to be part of the conversation. Okay, love to know what you think and share it with someone. Okay, please go down in the comment section and share your thought. Love to know what you think about this story time down in the comment section. What are your thoughts? What were the notes you were taking? Please go down and share it. Don't forget to share this video with somebody that you want to be part of the conversation, because that's what we do here. We have banging conversation. So go ahead and share this video. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, smash the like button, because this helps YouTube to push out my content for more people to see, and that'll be you supporting this channel and this girl. Yeah, so go ahead and do that. Subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you guys in my next video.